So, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending? How do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Merrill Chandler, and welcome to the Are You Effable podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your enthusiastic host of Are You Effable? And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the other 20%. And I'll get back here after the intro. We're going to take a deep dive into exactly what FICO is measuring besides the 80% it requires from your personal credit profile and that qualified nature that your personal credit profile needs. We're going to be talking about the other 20% to get you fundable. So I'll see you back in just a moment. Welcome back, guys. Now, what is that other 20%? Remember when I talked to you about my FICO, a FICO 18, right? I'm back there and I'm sitting with the SBA liaison of the Small Business Scoring Service produced by FICO. Now, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, Small Business Administration is the single largest user so far of the SBSS. It's being picked up by lenders monthly, right? More and more are adopting the SBSS score for business lending. But when I spoke with Dave Smith, he said that 80% of all business decisioning, right? All business lending decisions that are derived from your personal credit profile, the metrics, your personal performance data on your personal profile. We rarely ever talk about the other 20%. That's what this episode's about. We're going to be discussing the other 20%, how FICO uses your business data to evaluate you. And it's going to be very different than you might think. So let's kind of get down into a granular level. First of all, let's take a look at your business identity. Remember how we spent tons of time in previous episodes about your personal identity, right? Personal identity was kind of I called it the sun around which all the planets of your accounts revolve. And if it's not singular and dialed in and clear, there's nothing but chaos happening in your fundability. Now let's take a look at kind of how your business identity and the various components of your business identity contribute to this. And remember, we're talking about the other 20%. So PCID has to do with your 80%. Now your business identity has to do with your personal, with the other 20%. Now, let's kind of get some of the rules of engagement down. Every service provider out there who is ultimately going to report to a credit reporting agency, and there are three of them, but all of these types of all of your service credit, all of your vendor credit, all of your bank relationships, those service providers and business credit lenders, whether they're tier 1, 2, or 3, they all report when it's in true business credit. They report your name, social security, date of birth, your residence address, your business address, and your business and residence phone numbers, but they only report them when you go negative, meaning if it goes into collections or there's a judgment or otherwise. But the true business credit providers do not report to your personal profile. They only go to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion personal credit reporting if they are derogatory. There's a 30, 60, 90-day late, a collection or something like that. What we have to understand is that first of all, we only engage business credit lenders when we only engage true business lending and business lenders, because we don't want any of this stuff reported on our personal. All right. Now, let's take a look at, there are several principles upon which your business makes a business entity that is fundable, right? So first and foremost, we want you to be able to use the same version of your name on personal and business applications. This didn't used to be the case, but because of FICO Falcon, because of the data collection and the automatic underwriting systems that are becoming more and more prevalent among all lenders, we want to use that PCID, the personal credit identity, in the name fields of your personal credit applications and business credit applications. So they'll say, oh, what's your name? In my case, Merrill Chandler, right? That would be my personal credit applications. But if I'm filling out a business credit application, they say, okay, who is the owner or officer who is backstopping this application? I would also put Merrill Chandler. The same version of your name is used both on personal and personal applications for credit and business applications for credit. Now, number two, the second principle is that you want to use the same residence address on personal credit applications and business credit applications. Now, that seems nonsensical, but some people are the whole problem with personal credit identity, PCID, and business credit identity, BCID. The whole problem is that we're loosey-goosey in how we fill out our applications. And that's where the application, FICO's application score and FICO's Falcon fraud detection software is looking for inconsistencies. Right? Remember, way back a few episodes ago, we talked about a mortgage application that had red ink all over it because there was two versions of an address listed with the credit bureau. It is getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and these will either limit your approvals or they're going to get you denied straight out. So, principle number two for a fundable business entity, business identity, is to use the same residence address on both personal and business credit applications. And it needs to be that PCID address. Whatever you've made your PCID address to be, it goes on your personal. And when they ask for your personal information, it's identical on the business applications. All right. Now, let's get a kind of a bigger picture as to why this is true. Number one, in the FICO marketing, when you go to FICO's website and they're actually trying to sell the small business scoring service to lenders, they say that the small business scoring service combines a model that blends Dun & Bradstreet data on your business with consumer bureau data on the principals. Okay, that is what we're looking at. That is what we're looking at. So we need to know, we need to have consistent reporting data from Dun & Bradstreet on the business, and then the principals. Notice it doesn't say owner. It could be an officer. It could be the member or the governing member or the managing member of an LLC. But the principal, they're going to combine that consumer bureau data. Now we're getting ready to go back out to FICO World 19, right, for 2019. And one of the questions we're asking is what more details about what we're covering in this very episode. Now, the FICO Small Business Scoring Service actually creates monitors activities that automatically drive portfolio management activities, such as automating line increases, right? And so their entire job, FICO is selling to lenders that their software's job is to tell the lender when it's safe and when they should offer an automatic limit increase. Now, we've discussed in the past, but wouldn't you love to just be on that list, right? Automatic limit increases over and over and over again. But it's a blend of Dun & Bradstreet data on the business with consumer data on the principals. So let's take a look at kind of what that means. Now, this is what happens when SBSS does a real business credit check. First, you have your personal credit profile the data and the score generated by FICO, right? But then what happens is it checks certain data points. So we're going to cover what those data points are. It checks certain data points with Dun and Bradstreet. Listen carefully. It is not checking the 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 quality of the card, the type of card, the tier, the contribution, or even the utilization. It has very minimal data, and we're going to cover that in just a second. But what it is checking is the identity information. It's checking your SIC codes and your NAICS codes. It's checking your address for, is it the same as your personal? Is it the same as your personal address? Is it a post office box? It's checking certain data to see how serious or legitimate of a business person you are in their eyes. Now, when I say legitimate, I know I have clients who are making literally 6 figures a month, running stuff out of their home, running an internet business out of their home. And they tell me, I want to get more credit lines so that I can expand my business. And I said, guess what? I don't care how much money you're making. They want to know that you are a domiciled business, that you have a legitimate business address. Being at your house is not legitimate to them. I'm just telling you how the game is played, guys. Don't hate me. But Dun and Bradstreet is the purveyor of that information. It is the container of that information. And here's what's insane, and we'll be discussing this in a future episode. If you do not get the information from Dun and Bradstreet, if you're not managing it, other people will. And that's what's going to be happening in our next episode, or within the next 2 or 3 episodes. We're going to be covering what actually happens when you don't pay attention to your data. The U.S. Postal Service will weigh in on your data. I know it's hard to believe, but they weigh in on your data. Everybody, the other business credit bureaus will weigh on your data. Other lenders will weigh on your data. You have to be in charge of your data. And I've got a special episode to show you exactly how that shows up. But if you don't have Dun and Bradstreet data, which if you're working with me, you must, then they're going to check Experian business credit. Don't confuse this logo with the personal side. This is business Experian. And they're going to compare not the tier and contribution of the account, or the utilization, or even the limit. They're going to compare whether or not it's good or bad, and your identity data points, your business identity data points, and comparing it against your personal identity data points. They're checking to see if you really are the owner of this business, and the application score compares and contrasts the data that you provided on the application against what's on these databases. Are you with me? Then finally, if there's no Experian data, they're going to go to Equifax Business, not Equifax Personal. They're going to Equifax Business and see who has reported what about your business to that business credit bureau. If it sizes up and the data on the personal credit bureaus matches the personal data on the business credit bureaus, you're going to get a green light. You're going to get a thumbs up. Then it's going to check against your application against the business credit bureau data. Are you following what I'm saying? There's 2 comparisons that are going, at least 2. We've got more questions to ask FICO, but there's at least 2 comparisons. They are comparing your personal credit bureau data against the business credit bureau data of your PCID. Personal credit bureaus to business credit bureaus, and they're comparing the personal data. Then they're going to compare your application with the business credit data about the business start date, employees, all those things. That's why it is that many people are getting denied or have business credit unavailable to them because they don't know what they're syncing up. So let's look at some of the things that make you unfundable versus make you fundable. A fundable business identity, number 3, we're on that list. Business address cannot be a red flag address. Now there are versions of red, orange, and yellow flag, and there's a green flag, right? Yay. If your business is at a residence, is at your residence, and if that address is the same on the business and the on the credit application, has your personal address and your business address, and it's the same, it's a red flag. You're either going to get a flat out denial, or you're going to get such a low approval, a low limit or a low loan amount. They'll be like, we're going to do a tester. But the problem is if you get a credit line, you've burned the opportunity. If you get a $2,000 credit line or a $5,000 credit line, most of you, that's not going to serve you much, right? But it takes forever to get from 2,000 or 5,000 up to 50 or 100. But if we do it right and we have the right kind of addresses for your business and we've synced all this up and we know what we're doing, then we'll get started with a 20, maybe a 30 or a 50, and then it's a way shorter period to get to that 50 or $100,000 mark. You with me? The velocity of credit that we talked about, the velocity of credit says that for every month you spend building your personal profile, you're going to cut down the time to funding. Well, making that right has to use the data points that you're putting on your business application. So I don't care if you're making $10 million a year, guys, do not use your residence address. You will get more credit and funding approvals if you don't use your resident address. The next no-no is a P.O. box. Now remember, P.O. boxes and commercial store boxes, meaning the UPSs and the Federal Expresses and the mailbox, etc., those are where, this is my number, but I'm just throwing it out. This is where 80 to 90% of all business funding fraud has come from. And so, as we discussed in our previous episodes, the funding and algorithms, the AUSs, the automatic underwriting systems, just shut them down. So it is a PO box is red. A commercial mailbox is orange. And I call it orange because there may be some test approvals. So if you're going to get approved, it's going to be a low test approval limit, right? Or loan amount. And it's not worth it, but it's better than, if you have to, it's better than a residence and PO box. Now with with the clients that I've told you who have who make tons of money, the most that they were willing to do were to go to a commercial mailbox, and then commercial mailbox, UPS, Federal Express, etc. And those clients are less fundable than the next two, which are a virtual address, which is it could be a shared office space. You have a receptionist. The more it is a legitimate commercial business, the more lenders trust it and the more funding they will give you. You get more points in underwriting software by having a virtual address than a commercial mailbox. And then finally, the big, huge green light is a physical office. Now, a physical office doesn't mean you have to go rent or lease your own office. You, like a virtual address, you can put your placard up on the door or the wall of somebody that you know. Now, let's say you have a mortgage broker friend, an accountant friend. Some of my clients have found it really easy that if their accountant or their attorney is their registered agent, since that's the registered agent address, they just have gotten agreement from their registered agent to office there as well. There's a receptionist who knows who that individual is because they're the registered agent. They know who you are. They know how to get a hold of you, and that's all a lending underwriting. If you're in manual underwriting, that's all they need to be able to verify that you're in a physical office. Now, remember, we call it 30-minute underwriting, and we talked about it. We talked about it before. But in 30-minute underwriting, all an underwriter, if you're in manual underwriting, an underwriter from his or her desk can Google Earth and see exactly where you are officing. Right now, if it shows a big commercial building, then At least they know, and then it says second floor or suite 201 or whatever it is. That's creating confidence. These are just data points, guys, but the software is designed to create data points. Okay, so and compare those data points and align it. Now, the only exception to this model right here is if your geographical location actually does require you to use a post office box or a commercial mailbox. So if your geography dictates that you can't use your residence address, then of course do what you do. Just know that either there may be lower limits, but more importantly, lenders will categorize by zip code the types of funding thresholds that are available. Think about it. Remember when we said in a previous episode that the FICO, the revenue score takes your zip code and your credit score and can tell a lender how much money more or less they're going to be able to make off of you annually. Well, the same database that's looking up those zip codes can find zip codes where you are in, the remote reaches of the back forests of Muskogee, Oklahoma. All right. So whether you're in Alaska or you're in Borneo, well, that's a foreign country, and so there's other prescriptions to that. But sometimes your geography dictates something else. So I just want you to know that that is a thing. All right. Now let's take a look at the last part of this process. Step number 4 of a fundable business identity, not total fundability, but fundable business identity, is that your personal and business addresses must be in the same state. Your residence and your business address must be in the same state. So I've used this example before, but I had a client, and Ted, and Ted was a hardcore real estate investor, and he started in California, and his personal residence and his business was in California, but he did a few fix and flips. I think he had some buy and holds inside of California, but he saw that all the great deals were in Dallas, Texas. So he picked up and moved to Texas. Well, when he moved to Texas, all he did was file a foreign entity filing in the state of Texas for his domiciled state in California, picked up a business address in Dallas, and his new residence address became his new PCID. And so it met the criteria. He didn't lose because lenders don't want to let go of good borrowers, right? If you're a professional borrower, they're going to want to keep you. So he kept running the business loans and lines that he had acquired, credit cards that he had acquired inside of California, and then came to pick up some banks in Texas. And so he filed the application, the personal and business, following all 3 of the preceding things. He used the same version of his name in the application in Texas, used the same residence address on the personal application and the business application, and the business address was different than his residence. So he filed applications, developed the relationships of what we call vetted banks. He established new banking relationships in Texas, and acquired, I think it was 2 or 3 additional banks in Texas. Now his plan was, or at least at the time of this record, actually it's probably a month or 2 ago, please forgive me, he has now moved to Arizona. And in Arizona, he's going through the exact same process. He is now picking up some local banks in Arizona, or that's what his plan is. At this point, I don't believe that he has actually acquired the banks, because you have to establish the relationships, 3 to 6 months worth of business, a banking relationship, before you get the new credit line. So I know that he started the relationships. I don't believe he has his credit lines yet. But Ted knows exactly what he's doing. It is exactly how you play this game. If you're going, I'm not saying you need to move. I'm saying there's plenty of banks in the vast majority of states, there are plenty of banks to hit your $500 to $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million in loans and lines of credit. But the point is that he followed the rules every time he went to each new entity or each new state and followed the same fundable business identity rules. So that kind of gives you at least how the business, some of the data points that the software is measuring, right? Business identity and the personal identity all conjoined, and they're comparing the applications against the personal credit bureau data and the business credit bureau data, especially done in Bradstreet. So enjoy. My entire intention here is to give you, now remember, these are broad strokes, guys. There is no straight line to fundability. So if you want in-person attention from me and my team, go to the bootcamp. Go to getfundable.com, click on the bootcamp, join the next bootcamp. Let's get your questions answered. Let's do those things and see what we can do to keep you moving toward fundability. Of course, we have my book is coming out. We have the book, the coaching. We've got everything to support you, but at least you know what to stop doing so that you can be so you don't step on those funding landmines. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of Are You Effable? Keep getting more and more effable, guys. It's an amazing state to live in. I'll see you next time. Hey, guys. Thank you for listening to Are You Effable? Please leave comments because I would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit fundinghackers.com to view the blog post, get important links, join our community, and much, much more. And you gotta tell your friends about this podcast. We want them to become effable too.